Hi, everyone. Welcome to Freight Marketing Gurus. I am Demand Gen, and today I have Jess Kodrich from OnStation with us. Hi, Jess. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So I like to start all the shows off with an icebreaker just to kind of loosen up and learn a little bit more about you. So the question you chose is, what is your go-to karaoke song and why?
Yes. Because karaoke song. Drops of Jupiter has to be mine because not only is it like one of my favorite songs, but everyone seems to know it. So hopefully they're singing louder than I am.
But you got the microphone.
Yeah, it's fine. I can hold it a little distance. I'm also like very well known for like going to random people and putting it to their face instead of mine. Like everyone's involvement. It's great.
That's cool. You bring everybody in. It's everybody's turn. That's awesome. Do you karaoke often?
No. My boyfriend does. I don't. I usually like standing there and I'll sing in the back and like dance, but I usually don't take the mic.
Cool. So tell us a little bit more about OnStation and your role there.
So OnStation is a startup in Cleveland, and we do digital stationing, which not a lot of people know about. So on long highway projects, instead of putting stakes in the side of the road or spray painting, this is where I'm at with like, you'll see numbers on the side of like those barriers. We provide it digitally. So that's not a thing right now in the heavy highway industry. So we provide that. And then within OnStation, I'm the director of marketing. But since it's a startup, you kind of have your hands in everything. Right. So not only am I doing marketing stuff, but I also help with a couple of the sales initiatives. And I'm really in tune with the HubSpot software system that we're using for our CRM and like marketing automation and sales automation tools. So yeah, it's kind of like all encompassing.
I do all the things.
Yeah. Toilets, buy the toilet paper.
And that's what we're going to talk about today is the marketing and sales alignment components and HubSpots and really aligning marketing and sales. So let's get down to business. How can the marketing team leverage prospecting tools to provide sales reps with comprehensive information about leads?
So this is always like a pain point for marketing. I feel like, give me more leads. I want the information on these people coming in. Like, how do you provide your sales team with that kind of information that they need? So there's a couple ways that we do this. So we just brought on ZoomInfo as kind of an extension of our CRM. And that's just a place where you can kind of, if a lead comes in, or even if they're prospecting, they can go and look in ZoomInfo and see that information. Now, we're a startup, so we kind of have a lower package for ZoomInfo. But if you do like an all-encompassing package, you can really make both systems work together through the automation. Like when a lead comes in, they can ramp up the information in there. And then it can also set up like buying signals and where they're doing buying signals for other systems. So you can kind of make it like a powerhouse.
I love ZoomInfo, but it is like the Cadillac or Rolls Royce of data.
Yes.
And it comes with the Rolls Royce price.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, the enrichment is really cool because you can build the integration. And if somebody fills out a form, you can ask like 2-3, fill questions, and it's going to populate like 20.
Yeah.
And then what you do is you run that through your lead score mechanism. And now you have these data points that you didn't ask them to put in, but you can score because you know it, and it goes into your database and you can build lists based off of it. Like if you have the budget for ZoomInfo, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
With that being said, it's not cheap.
Yeah. So that's where we accompany it with. There's a lot of associations in our paving industry for asphalt and concrete. So we go to a lot of those associations, and we're very, very happy that our industry is willing to share information from these conferences. So we'll go and we'll get the attendees list, and then I'll run that through ZoomInfo. So that way I kind of have the control, and we're not just doing everyone in their blue moon that's coming in from a lead form. These are people that are, I see
this match, right?
All of their information, put it in a little package. Here you go, sales.
And that's the list match tool in ZoomInfo, right? So you upload the list and you say, hey, I want more information on these contacts, or you can upload the list of companies, get more information on those companies, or you can upload the list of companies and get appropriate buyer persona contacts. So you can populate your database with who you want to talk to, not necessarily the HR person that attended, but the company is a good lead for you. You can identify the right person within that organization and pull them into your database. I love that tool. And data, your contact database is 80% at least of your ability to be successful. So if you're not investing in your database and tools to enrich it and make it more powerful, you're going to fall behind. You're missing out. You don't have the power. Yeah. So what key data points should sales reps focus on from these tools to better understand a prospect's journey?
So some of the data points that we kind of look at is, what is kind of like our ICP and those data points. You can always look up industry. You can always look up these different things. But with a lot of turnover in the companies that we work with, you can't always use where they currently are as a main data point. So we actually look at LinkedIn actions as one of the data points, because a lot of the deals that have a higher conversion to sale is if they're on LinkedIn and if they're actually using technology. Surprise, we're selling technology. So that's like a huge data point for us, is trying to look into that and what other systems are using too. Like we integrate with HCSS, so we have their customer list as well. So seeing that, okay, they're using all of these different tools, this is probably a very high converting prospect for you and or lead. You can kind of pull those data points in.
And do you guys use LinkedIn Sales Navigator?
Not right now, because again, it's pricey.
It's like $109 per user. There is team that gets very expensive so that you can transfer information across people, across the team. But $109 to get the visibility and to track your prospects within LinkedIn is valuable to me.
Yeah. One of the things that we're looking at actually doing is separating our SDRs from our account executives. And our SDRs say they use LinkedIn a lot more because they have to try to see oh, yes, they're using technology. They're on LinkedIn. They have a LinkedIn profile, getting all that data from there. And they actually like using that more. And the account executives like using the ZoomInfo a little bit more because they want to see the full picture of a company.
Right.
So we may actually switch our SDRs to Sales Navigator while the AEs have ZoomInfo, and then it's like the best of both worlds.
Right. Everybody gets a tool.
Yeah.
You get one now.
Poison.
So it sounds like you meet with, bringing your marketing and sales together. How often do you guys meet?
So I like meeting once a month, just because even when you make any marketing changes with ads or functionality wise, process wise, you really don't see any true change data wise for like a month or 2 weeks. So in order to get a true analyzation for the next meeting, we like doing it by month. So we do it the first week of every month on that Thursday. And it's just like every month.
The clockwork.
We're talking through this.
And do you have like a set agenda you go through?
Yeah. So we always like aligning our marketing and sales with similar goals when it comes to our SDRs and my team. And the reason why I try to do that is because you always have that pain point of I'm not getting enough leads, and then
I'm not getting enough leads. I'm getting bad leads.
Enough.
They're not following up on my leads. Yeah.
It's got like constant friction. So we put goals in place where marketing, we do have some sales goals, and sales had some. It's not marketing goals, but like you have to have your activity in a certain amount of time and be able to trigger us in a way where we can help you. So it's kind of like, okay, we're in this together. We're not fighting together. It's us against everyone else. So let's just go with this. And also they're more, especially with marketing, like we're not on the calls. We want to know, like, I don't want to listen to all of the calls you're on because there's a lot.
Right.
I want to know what conversations went well, what didn't, if there's some type of content that you need to like amplify something you keep hearing. Seasonality is a huge one for us too. So like working with the sales team in those meetings is huge. So the agenda is, have we hit our goals? If not, okay, where were those low points and how can we improve them? And then the second part is, okay, what are you hearing on the phones and how can marketing support so that way you can move this lead quicker to a deal and then to close. So that's kind of what we talk about in those meetings. They're only 30 minutes, but a lot of it too is how can we target this better for, so we get a more qualified lead. So we get your ICP to move to SQL. So,
So they're on the front line having these conversations. Are you getting feedback about how messaging is resonating?
Yes. So we've had a couple of changes over the past couple of weeks, actually, because a lot of our messaging has been with company name, has been, what's the other one? Like some of the ads didn't have heavy highway in it. They just had stationing or find your location on a road. And it was a little bit more generic. So we fine-tuned a lot of that. People coming in don't really resonate with their company name. They resonate with their project names more. So that was one change. Then the other change was making sure that we're being hyper specific of this is exactly for a guy on a highway job that's trying to find their stationing. So there's no like me trying to find like where my car is broke down on the side of the highway.
Right. Nobody wants to do that. No. So you mentioned earlier, HubSpot's super important to you. You love to play in there. You build dashboards. How do you use your dashboards to maintain your relationship with sales and make sure you're aligned on goals and achieving goals? What important metrics are you including in your dashboard?
One of the biggest ones that I love to look at, and HubSpot just updated this, so go look at it.
They update everything.
Oh, all the time. Also,
when they change their user interface,
it's fine. I couldn't work yesterday for like an hour, and everyone
when they changed their interface and moved everything, I'm like, oh no, where'd that go?
Yeah.
They moved it under files now. Like, I wouldn't think so. Okay. But anyways, sorry, what metrics do you use?
So I really like using the funnel tool, especially since now they have the prospecting separated with the lead.
And so you have enterprise. Enterprise has the funnel tool. Okay.
Yes. And I think all reporting has the funnel tool. It's just
okay. I think I'm thinking of the flow tool.
Yeah, the flow.
Okay, so flow is
enterprise.
Okay,
that's one that
you the funnel
need to have. But the funnel is a general marketing, or not marketing, a general report that you can create, and you can only have one property for it. So it's how is this object moving through? So for a lead, it's super important because if someone comes in as an MQL, I want to see, okay, how quickly are we to close it, and what's the percentage to contact and create a deal. Right. So we look at that one. And then within the deals, we look at a similar thing of you can put a filter of this was a lead from an MQL. How has it moved through the deals? And how can we trigger, there was a drop off at the handoff. How can marketing come in with some automated email, maybe even a text message to try to amplify the voice so that way it doesn't drop off. So that's kind of what we look at reporting wise, along with response time. Those are generic reports that you can have that they have. But I really like getting into the nitty gritties of, why didn't this lead move forward? Or why do these group of leads that have a common thing not move forward to this next stage of being connected? Or why aren't people connecting that have a similar property trait or something.
And do you guys talk about that in the meeting? Like, do you bring up the dashboard, talk about this group, talk about who's in that group, what the attributes of that group are, how they're similar, and how some have moved, but some haven't, and kind of navigate how to move them?
Yes. So it's a two-way conversation is what I always like to say. I'll present something and then say, okay, some of the time they're like, oh, I didn't even realize that, but yeah, like it's happening. And I'm like, yeah, well, this is part of like why we have these discussions. So half of it is, okay, well, how can we push this through process? And the other half of it is, what are some things we can change on the back end through automation to help push some of these things further, or even retargeting, remarketing, all of that stuff comes into play into those conversations to try to push them forward.
And have you had a lot of success with that in terms of identifying where there's like bottlenecks and then moving them forward through the remarketing and retargeting?
Yes. So with anything, you're going to have fails. I say that all the time. So it's how you pivot. Being able to pivot and being able to use the data to your advantage is huge. And that's what I try to say to my team. Just because we try something new, or just because I analyze something and it's not the best, that doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. We need to improve it and move it forward. And that's what matters. So I don't mind that things aren't working at a certain point, but we just got to move forward.
Right. So what's the most important thing to focus on when you're building out HubSpot or any other CRM?
Less clicks.
Okay, let's dive into less clicks. How are clicks affecting the ability to move forward in the buyer's journey? What is it about the less clicks?
So if you can provide your sales team with information in an easy way to digest form where they can click one time, send a text message, send an email, be able to see the notes, like that's what they want. Like they want the Kanban in Salesforce, how they have it and you can click through. Mm-hmm. Like HubSpot kind of has made that with the leads, but they want to see, well, how are they?
They have the sales lead or sales prospect dashboard where they can like kind of operate from that daily, right? It like pulls up like you have these tasks, you have to call these people, here's your top leads, all that stuff. Yeah. So you can use that tool.
So in that tool, where my nerdy coding is going to come out a little bit.
Okay.
So I've developed custom objects in HubSpot that basically connects our product to the contact. So we know every user that's in the product and if they're a lead and how they're using the app or whatever product that they're using within our suite. So when you click in a lead, you can see, oh, well, they tried to figure out, or they tried to go into integrations and they don't have integrations and I'm trying to upsell them. Like that's a line item, one place for them. They don't have to go into our product, look into it. Everything's at their fingertips. So the more that you can make information there, do it. And the second,
did you integrate HubSpot to your platform to get that data? So when they're logged into their platform and you notice that they're trying to access integrations, you could send that communication back into HubSpot, notify your salesperson, this person's trying to access this module per se, but they don't have access. Here's an opportunity to upsell.
Exactly.
Brilliant. But it doesn't sound that easy. How did you integrate HubSpot to your platform?
I'm really happy my dev guy is not on this call because it
was not easy.
So the easiest way to set this up is to make it a one-way lane. So his information is only sending to us right now. I don't want us to change anything in HubSpot that affects his side of the thing. But a lot of it is when you set up the custom object, you need to make sure that your naming convention is very similar to your product. So that way, if someone does go into your product to look up information, it looks exactly the same. And why not just use HubSpot? It's like over here, the naming conventions are the same. The data is floating over into here appropriately and it's push data. So just use this. And a lot of the stuff was actually making sure duplicates weren't being created. Right now I'm working on the associations. So when you look at, we call them OnStation orgs, but those are companies that are within our product.
Sure.
If you click in an OnStation org, being able to see the leads that are associated with it, the deals, the users, like all that information in one place. And that's what I'm working on right now, which is probably the hardest, because it can either be an association mess of all these workflows and all the back end org stuff. If you're ever in HubSpot and you go into the org thing, you can see all the lines. We don't want that. So I'm trying to work on a different way of just showing tables and views. So that way it's a little bit more clean and you can still click in places and all the data's in one view. But that's the hardest part.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Work in progress.
Yeah. I definitely am not, like, my stress levels are not raising up this conversation.
You're like, okay, well, I feel like I need to go get this stuff done now.
Yeah.
Talk. So in what ways can marketing teams extend the sales team's efforts by introducing a different voice or message at critical stages?
So we have something that we analyze a lot of the time, especially in app or SaaS selling, anything like that. You have the common guy or girl that says, oh, well, I'll show my team and I'll get them set up. So you can analyze common phrases and things like that in HubSpot. So I pulled it, and we've had the highest drop off in deals when people say, oh, it's a lot of I'll messages. I'll get this set up. I'll train them. I'll see what we're going to do in the next 2 weeks. So we decided to push through an actual in-person marketing campaign.
Okay.
So this campaign is called From In the Field. And basically, after we get to this point, they kind of disengage with digital marketing. And we haven't been able to get through to really anyone because people aren't Googling OnStation. We're too new.
Right.
And then when they get to that point, they're not Googling us anymore. And then on LinkedIn, we can go into their feed, but it's kind of like an avoidance. I'm trying to avoid these people.
Like, I don't want to talk to you. That's why I'm not talking to you.
Exactly. So I've set up this trigger in HubSpot now where if in a deal, there's a certain percentage of, okay, they've said this many times.
Okay, what tool in HubSpot are you using for this? Because this is new to me. And I'm like geeking out, right? And I'm like, new tool in HubSpot? And it listens, aka reads the messages and looks for commonalities, and you can identify commonalities across conversations to say this is what led to a downfall in moving this prospect forward.
Yes.
So what is this called?
So it's a report. You can do, there's two things you can do. You can do a report or a table. I think the table is only in Marketing Enterprise, if I'm correct, or Operations Enterprise. That is a great tool. Highly recommend using it. It gives you a lot of data. But even in the reports, you can look at sales activity. And I think that there's a property that says body. And then you can say if the body has this in it, like this string, or if it contains I'll look, or those phrases that I was talking about, you can add them. And then it'll say, okay, yeah, it's had X amount of emails with this body in it.
And then you can kind of cross-analyze that with other things like deal stages or conversion rates or something like that to see where the decline's happening.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we're going to have to spend some time looking at that. I want to see that.
Yeah. But one of the things that we're doing with that is when those triggers happen, if they have a project that we have in the app, it triggers my new event person that's not yet hired.
Okay. So it's you. It's you right now.
Now it's me. And it says the sales team should probably go and visit this prospect or deal, whatever it may be, because they're showing signs of like disengagement.
Okay.
We usually have a higher conversion when we go in person. People see our neon. People
connect with people.
Exactly. So that's like a different initiative that we just started, but that was something that we pushed forward with, like the data and flagging and trying to focus on like, let's use what they're saying to our benefit or what they're not saying. Like,
but that's a great example on how to leverage the data that you have available to you to improve the velocity of your pipeline.
Exactly.
So not only velocity, but conversion rates in general, right? Because a lot of them are just falling off there. So they're probably moving quicker by meeting in person as well as moving at all. Yeah. So that's smart. So what are some common challenges in aligning marketing efforts with the sales process? How can those be overcome?
I think a big thing is just that meeting. A lot of, because I'm also like the HubSpot guru too. So in that meeting, I'm sitting in there and people will be like, oh, well, this lead came in and I can't see X, Y, and Z. And it's like, awesome. Like I can add that to my list as a HubSpot operational person. But then in the same breath, they'll be like, but this was a great lead because of X, Y, and Z. And that's where my marketing manager's like, this is awesome. Tell me more about the lead. So we kind of come at it from like twofold.
Sure.
But then also the process wise, I try to look at data of if I call them sniff tests.
Okay.
I have my sniff test reports of, if our MQL to SQL goes super down. And in our case, like 2 new SDRs just got hired. I'm like, okay, well, is that because we're onboarding more SDRs and it's taking training? Or is it because the new SDRs aren't doing the proper process? And that's where we need to like fine tune things and go into that. So I usually develop my own sniff test reports.
Okay. What kind of quality filter do you have in terms of like MQL to SQL? I think has another like line in there for like an SAL is what I like to call it. And it's more or less saying, here's what is marketing qualified based on demographics, firmographics, and behavior, engagement. And then I send it over to the sales team. And what I like to do is put in a layer of acceptance, because sometimes stuff sneaks through because they fill out the form, right? Mm-hmm. They select sales, but it's for support or it's somebody that wants to analyze your website. Sometimes that stuff sneaks through. So we have like an SAL so that I will only hold them accountable for the SAL to SQL because that's all they could be responsible for. So how do you filter quality from MQL to SQL?
So that's always like a step in the like trying to make it better. You always try to make like your data from MQL to SQL better. You try to fill in that gap. The tough thing with that in our side is we're so new that like even when someone comes at support, it's like a new feature.
All right, what do we do with this?
Yeah. And it's like, well, if we make it, I can upsell this. And like, this is double, like if someone fills out the support form. But a lot of our stuff is separated with tickets for support. I mean, that's another HubSpot tool I highly recommend using. But also even our customer success, I put tickets in for them instead of, I want them to start at a ticket. So that way everything can associate there. Because then if you pull it out of the lead or the prospecting tool, then HubSpot can say, don't even focus over here.
Right.
Very nice. Not sure if that answered your question at all, but we're kind of,
it's just your process.
Yeah.
Basically. And because you're so new, everything could be an actual opportunity. Even if it is support, it could be a upsell opportunity.
Exactly.
So some final thoughts. What advice would you give to marketing teams looking to better support their sales counterparts?
I would say define some aligning goals that overlap. That creates a lot of different perception of the teams and the teams working together. It makes a power team kind of, and you're trying to make this system powerhouse basically that can run through everything, and leads come in and sales go out. So that's the goal of both of the teams.
Right.
And then the second thing would be making a meeting, a reoccurring meeting. It can be
feedback.
Exactly. And I wouldn't make it more than 30 minutes because everyone always rolls their eyes at meetings longer than 30 minutes.
Right.
And just get to the point. Like sales, they're like, if there's any time that they're not on the phone or not working something, they see it as time wasted sometimes. So if you make it worth their value of like, hey, if we meet and this is going to bring in better leads or have marketing better support you, it's awesome.
Right. Yeah. You almost have to market to the sales team.
Exactly.
I'm going to provide you. Please come to my meeting.
Exactly.
How can both teams continuously improve their strategies to ensure alignment and success?
One of the ways that Angela Arnold, she's our new VP of Revenue, and you've worked with her, so
yeah,
before this. We always like to push each other in a most positive way, because I've been in sales and marketing, and so is she. So I think it's our Achilles heel and like our best asset is that we've been in both. Because like, what do I touch? What don't I touch? What do I bring up? But if you can push the other leg of the stool, as she likes to say, and she just presented in our last meeting, like as long as it's productive, like push it. Like if you say something and it does like an aha moment, like that's awesome. And that goes with strategy as well. You know, people have been in the industry for longer, but also change is necessary most of the time. So pushing things isn't a bad thing, especially when it comes to strategy, methodology, and taking things in a different view.
Well, I think that's very apparent here because you're like, okay, how do we leverage all this data we have in our platform? How do we leverage this data we have within HubSpot? And it's all about the data. It's all about the data. Like if you connect all the dots from everything we talked about just now, is like data from the platform, data from the sales team, data from ZoomInfo, data from HubSpot. Like it's all about the data and leveraging and pushing to use the data in different ways to make you more successful. And apparently that's what you guys are on the road to do.
Yeah.
So last question, I need some secret sauce. What's some tip or secret or feedback or insight that you don't think is like common knowledge that's helping you be successful?
Yeah. So I'm going to say two things in this one.
Right.
There's one that's like, I don't think people look at it as hard as they should, especially in HubSpot, but only giving people notifications that they should be getting. You know, HubSpot has their like turn on notification. This is basically get everything.
Right.
And then you go, well, why did you miss this? And it's like, well, I had 17 other notifications that came through. Yep. So I would say one thing to really concentrate on and focus on for secret sauce is really hone down on like what people need to be notified on and what they care about, because all the rest of the stuff is just noise and we don't need that. Yeah.
And HubSpot and most tools give you the ability to kind of flex on what you should get notifications on. And it's not you have a new lead in your database, right? Like it's like whatever is important for that person. You know, if you're pulling in lists from ZoomInfo and every time they're changing contact owner and they're saying they got a new contact, that's not very helpful. But if that contact engages, now you've got an MQL. Now you need to know, and you need to know about that activity, so that you can jump in and do your job. So absolutely, it makes a lot of sense.
And then the second thing is, again, HubSpot makes a bunch of updates all the time. You don't know your left from your right sometimes, but I really think they developed a really good campaign module. And one of the things that I would say is really leverage the marketing events, you know, the custom events that they have. You can trigger them to campaigns, but then also audiences, ads, marketing events, all of that stuff can be tied together, and you can have your budget in one place so that when you say, hey, we did this event last year, like, how did it go? Like, how much money did we spend? And then you don't got to go into your like, well, how much money did I spend in Facebook? Go look at that. Like, it puts it all in one place for you. So I would say like part of the secret sauce to marketing success is definitely using the campaigns tool.
Yeah. And so you tie your budget to the campaign, and then you can associate the contacts, the leads, the SQLs, the opportunities, and the customers to that campaign and see the ROI.
Exactly. And one of our biggest things that I look at is attribution costs. So I do our attribution from campaigns because we have different types of campaigns of, like I said, on-site, event, conference, that kind of stuff. But we also have digital campaigns that are running just like everyone else. So being able to separate and navigate and be able to analyze, well, this is working and this isn't working. Let's spend more time over here. And it just helps so much.
Yep. No, that's really smart. So are you going to HubSpot this year?
No.
Oh, me either.
I'm so bummed because
Ryan Reynolds will be there. Ryan was
HubSpot,
but I saw they're sold out, so I'm happy for him because I actually heard I didn't hear. I saw I don't know if you went to HubSpot inbound years ago, but pre-COVID, they had people come in and talk about kind of their use cases and how they use HubSpot and where they see success. And it was never a direct application for me, but it was such a big idea generator, right? Yeah. Like somebody talking about how they use their attribution model and they're applying ROI, things like that. It's like, oh, that's really cool. How can I do that for my company or for my clients or whatever? And I'd come back with like 50 ideas. And then COVID hit and they went virtual and there were tech issues. And then I went last year or 2 years ago? And you couldn't even get in the rooms. Like they had 30,000 people there and it'd be like, here's a session and we're letting 500 people in. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? So I was really happy to see that they're going back to that previous model where they have people come in and actually do their use cases, because that was really cool and really valuable information.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Totally agree. You know what? We should be a speaker. We should combine efforts and say that we should present.
For sure. I'm all about community. And I love what they've done in terms of building community, because they have their tech partners, they have their customers, they have all these resources for people to learn how to use the tool. They have a community for feedback and like wish lists for the tool. I loved how they built community. And really quickly, I want to put a plug in for a community that I'm working to build. I don't know if you've heard about Freight Movement, but Freight Movement is it's bringing people together on a local geographic area within the industry. So we had an event in Minnesota in June. We had like 50 to 100 people come, and it gives them the ability to network and talk about what's going on in the industry, get to know each other, and you never know what's going to come out of a conversation. So if you're not already following it, follow it, Freight Movement. You can follow it on LinkedIn, or you could go to the website, check it out, freightmovement.com. So I just had to put a plug in there. Yeah. It's my passion project. I'm really big about community and just wanted to throw that out there. But it was really great to have you on the show. Please tell our listeners how they can connect with you if they wanted to do so.
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always on there. I actually went to World of Asphalt and someone stopped me and they're like, "You're the LinkedIn girl." And I'm like, okay.
Maybe you should put Jess Kodrich, the LinkedIn girl. Maybe that should be your handle for going on podcasts.
Yeah, I should put it under like our OnStation logo. I'm the LinkedIn girl.
There you go.
Like, okay. It's funny because my boss was called the bald guy. So, I'll take that over the.
Right. At least you're not the bald guy.
But yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Jessica Kodrich with a check.
With a check? Wait, what is with a check?
I put an emoji check in my name.
In your LinkedIn handle?
Yes. if you really want my secret sauce, do that because you'll show up in more searches.
Really?
Yeah. Don't know why, but
oh. So what made you do it?
Because someone else did it and I messaged them and they were very like well known. Like they're like a CEO for like a huge company, like startup company. And I was like, oh, it's actually Walnut. Have you heard of Walnut?
No.
Oh, well, their CEO, I messaged him. I was like, why do you have a check mark? And he was like, oh, it's like, okay.
Helps me show him more searches. All right. Well, I'm going to check that out now.
Yeah.
Check that out. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a really great conversation, and I hope everybody found some valuable information here.
Thank you.